The stars shimmered like a scattering of diamonds across the endless expanse of space as Alex's shuttle approached the intergalactic academy. Nestled within a shimmering nebula, the academy floated like a jewel amidst the cosmos, a sprawling complex of towering spires of organic domes and translucent bridges connecting buildings that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It was a marvel of engineering, reflecting the countless minds from across the galaxy that had converged to create a haven for learning. For Alex, a young human from Earth, this was the moment he had been dreaming of his entire life. As standing at the front of the shuttle, he watched the academy come into view, his heart pounding with anticipation. The academy was more than just a school, it was a symbol of unity, a place where beings from every corner of the galaxy came together to learn, share knowledge, and push the boundaries of what was possible. Alex had always been fascinated by the idea of diversity on such an astronomical scale, but now, standing on the brink of that reality, the scope of it felt overwhelming. As the shuttle docked and the doors slid open with a soft hiss, Alex took his first step into the academy. The air felt different here, cool and crisp, filled with the faint hum of alien technology and the distant sounds of voices speaking in dozens of different languages. His boots clicked softly on the smooth, gleaming floor as he entered the arrival hall, a vast open space that seemed to glow with its own inner light. All around him were students, each one more unique than the last. A group of tall crystalline beings from the planet Zeran glided by, their translucent bodies refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. A cluster of insectoid creatures with iridescent wings chattered excitedly near the fountain, while a floating orb-like creature passed overhead, trailing a vaporous tail. The diversity of life forms was astonishing, and yet Alex felt acutely aware of how he must look to them. His human form, though well-defined and muscular, seemed almost primitive in comparison. The few other humans at the academy were scattered like rare gems among a sea of the exotic. Despite Earth's growing presence in the intergalactic community, humans were still relatively new to this level of cosmic interaction. Alex knew he would be one of the few representatives of his species here, a fact that filled him with both pride and a weighty sense of responsibility. "Excuse me, human?" A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. He turned to see a tall alien woman standing next to him. She had elongated limbs, her skin a pale, shimmering blue, and eyes that seemed to glow with an ethereal light. "Do you need assistance finding your quarters?" Alex smiled, trying to project confidence. "Thank you, but I think I can manage," he replied, glancing down at the small holo map projected from his wristband. "I'm just taking it all in. This place is amazing." The alien smiled, a curious, almost wistful expression in her glowing eyes. "It can be overwhelming at first, but you'll get used to it." With a graceful nod, she drifted away, leaving Alex to navigate the maze of corridors on his own. He eventually found his way to the student housing wing where his assigned room was located. The quarters were surprisingly spacious, with large windows overlooking the academy grounds and the swirling nebula beyond. As he unpacked his belongings, Alex couldn't help but feel a growing excitement. This was at the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one where he would not only learn but hopefully contribute to the understanding of the universe's myriad life forms. As he settled into his new routine, the days passed in a blur of orientation activities, meetings with professors, and introductions to classmates from across the galaxy. Alex's natural curiosity and passion for biology quickly earned him a reputation as a dedicated student. But despite the camaraderie of his peers and the buzz of academic life, there was one person who stood out to him from the very beginning: Zara. Zara was from the planet Valtur, a world known for its stunning landscapes and rich cultural heritage. Her species, the Valtri, were known for their intelligence and natural affinity for scientific inquiry. Zara was no exception. She was striking in appearance, with pale green skin that shimmered faintly in the light, large iridescent eyes that shifted colors depending on her emotions, and long silver hair that seemed to flow like liquid metal. But what truly captivated Alex was her mind. They met during one of their first biology seminars, where Alex had been nervously scanning the room, feeling the weight of being the only human in a sea of alien faces. The professor, a towering creature with multiple arms and a voice that vibrated through the air, had just asked a question about the evolutionary pathways of different species when Zara spoke up. "On Valtur, our species evolved under intense environmental pressures, leading to rapid adaptation. Our ability to manipulate bioelectric energy is a result of the volatile storms that rage across our planet's surface," she explained, her voice smooth and calm, yet filled with authority. Alex had been impressed, not just with her answer, but with the confidence with which she spoke. He found himself nodding in agreement, then raising his own hand to add, "Humans also developed in response to environmental challenges, but our evolution has been slower, more gradual. Our adaptability lies in our problem-solving skills and our ability to modify our environment to suit our needs. Zara had turned her glowing eyes toward him then, her gaze piercing yet curious. And yet, she said softly, "You've come so far in such a short time. It's fascinating." From that moment on, Alex and Zara began spending more time together, discussing everything from evolutionary biology to their respective cultures. Zara was intrigued by human physiology, particularly how Earth's gravity, climate, and diet had shaped Alex's body. She admired the strength and endurance humans possessed, traits that were not as common among her own people, who relied more on mental prowess than physical power. As their friendship deepened, Alex found himself growing more comfortable in his role as one of the few humans at the academy. He realized that his presence here wasn't just about proving something to others, it was about learning from them too. And Zara was a constant reminder of that. But the day that would truly define Alex's place at the academy came during their biology class, when the professor announced an upcoming series of special demonstrations. Each student would have the opportunity to present something unique about their species' biology, and Alex knew immediately that this was his chance. He volunteered without hesitation, despite the gnawing nervousness that crept in later. This was his moment to not only showcase the human body, but to offer something that none of his classmates had ever seen before. Humans were still somewhat of a mystery to many species, and Alex was determined to change that. The night before his presentation, Alex found himself pacing in his room, going over his notes and practicing his explanations. He had spent hours preparing, making sure he could explain every detail of the human muscular system with precision. But it wasn't just about facts. He wanted his classmates to understand the beauty and complexity of the human body, how each muscle worked in harmony, how humans had evolved to be both fragile and resilient. Zara had stopped by to offer her support. "You'll do great," she said, her iridescent eyes reflecting a soft glow in the dim light of the room. "You've worked hard for this, and you have something valuable to share." Alex smiled, feeling a sense of calm wash over him at her words. "Thanks, Zara. I just want to make a good impression. It's important to me that they understand what makes humans unique." "They will," she replied, her voice soft but confident. "And I'll be right there watching." The next day, as Alex stood at the front of the classroom, the eyes of dozens of alien students on him, he took a deep breath and began his presentation. His muscular physique, honed by years of physical training on Earth, immediately drew attention. Some of the students leaned forward, fascinated by the way his muscles shifted and flexed as he moved. He spoke with passion, explaining how the human body was a perfect balance of strength and flexibility, built to survive in a wide range of environments. As he continued, he could feel the atmosphere in the room shifting. The alien students, who were used to such different biological structures, were captivated by the human form's raw power and elegance. Alex demonstrated movements, lifting and flexing, showing how each muscle worked in harmony. He described the evolution of human strength, the challenges humans faced in adapting to different environments, and how their biology had shaped their culture. But more than that, Alex infused his presentation with a sense of wonder, a deep appreciation for the body he inhabited and the species he represented. And as he spoke, he noticed Zara in the back of the room, watching him with a smile that made his heart lift. And by the time the demonstration ended, there was a buzz of excitement in the room. Students from all over the galaxy approached him with questions, fascinated by the complexity and adaptability of the human body. But amidst the growing interest, Alex's attention remained focused on Zara. Her approval, her respect meant more to him than any other praise he could receive. That evening, as the stars outside the academy shimmered in the velvet night, Alex and Zara walked through the academy gardens, their conversation drifting between biology, culture, and the vast mysteries of the galaxy. And as they stood beneath the towering trees, surrounded by the strange and beautiful flora from countless worlds, Alex realized that his time at the academy was about more than just biology or proving himself. It was about connection between species, between individuals, and between hearts. The intergalactic academy had opened its doors to him, but it was the relationships he was building that would define his journey here. And in Zara, he had found not just a friend, but a partner in that journey, one that would take them both to places they had never imagined. As they walked together beneath the stars, Alex knew that his story here was only just beginning. The air in the Academy's biology auditorium was charged with anticipation as Alex stood at the front of the room, his palms slightly damp with nervous energy. The grand, vaulted ceiling of the room arched high above, resembling the ribbed interior of some ancient beast. Light from hovering orbs illuminated the space, casting a soft glow over the faces of students from every corner of the galaxy. Each one watched him with varying degrees of interest, curiosity, or skepticism. This was no ordinary classroom. It was a stage for discovery where knowledge from dozens of species and planets came together, creating an atmosphere thick with intellectual curiosity. For Alex, today's presentation would be more than just a demonstration of human anatomy. It was his chance to showcase his species in a way that few had ever done before. A way to bridge the gap between human biology and the intricate, often incomprehensible physiology of the alien species around him. He adjusted his stance, staying tall and confident, though his heart pounded in his chest. His muscles, prominent beneath the fitted uniform he wore, drew several pairs of alien eyes, each trying to understand the form and function of the human body, a structure so foreign to them. He felt their curiosity like a tangible presence, but that was exactly what he'd hoped for. The professor, a towering arachnoid creature with 8 slender arms and eyes that shimmered like quicksilver, introduced him. Her voice, which vibrated through the air, was both musical and commanding. Today, we are privileged to witness a rare and fascinating presentation from one of our human students. Alex from Earth will provide us with a detailed explanation and demonstration of human musculature, an anatomical marvel known for its strength and adaptability. Alex nodded, his mouth dry as he turned toward the audience. He had prepared for this moment, meticulously rehearsing each point, each motion, knowing that for most of his peers this would be their first real look at a human body beyond the superficial. He began his presentation with a holographic image of the human muscular system projected into the air beside him. The image hovered, rotating slowly, revealing layer upon layer of muscle fibers, tendons, and bones. The human body, Alex started, his voice clear but calm, is a complex system of biological engineering. While it may seem fragile compared to some of the more exotic species you are used to, humans have evolved to thrive in a wide variety of environments, from deserts to frozen tundras and even in the deep oceans. As he spoke, he began to peel back the layers of the hologram, showing the dense networks of muscle tissue beneath the skin. He explained the primary functions of different muscle groups: the biceps, triceps, quadriceps, and hamstrings, each with its specific role in movement, strength, and endurance. What sets humans apart, he continued, is not just the strength of our individual muscles, but how they work together in perfect harmony. We have evolved to be adaptable, which has given us an incredible range of motion and physical capability. As he moved through the presentation, he didn't just rely on the hologram to explain. Instead, Alex used his own body as a living example. He rolled up his sleeves, exposing his forearms, and flexed his muscles, showing how the tendons and fibers contracted and relaxed with each movement. Several of the alien students leaned forward, their eyes widening in surprise. To them, this was something entirely new in anatomy, designed for raw power, coordination, and resilience. Among the crowd, Zara watched with quiet admiration. Her pale green skin seemed to shimmer softly in the dim light of the auditorium, and her iridescent eyes followed Alex's every movement, absorbing not just the content of his presentation, but the way he carried himself. She had seen him practice countless times, had been privy to the doubts and nervous energy he had hidden from most. But here now, in front of the Academy's most brilliant minds, Alex was in his element, radiating confidence and passion for his subject. Her heart swelled with pride for her friend, but also with something more, an affection that she had kept carefully tucked away, unsure of how to express it, or if it was even appropriate to feel in the first place. As Alex continued, the energy in the room shifted. The initial curiosity of the students turned into deeper engagement. He had anticipated skepticism, particularly from species whose biological designs were vastly different. Some of his classmates didn't even possess a skeletal structure, let alone anything resembling muscles. But the more he explained, the more they were drawn in, intrigued by the way human evolution had shaped their bodies for survival. One of the students, a tall, plant-like being with thick, fibrous limbs, raised a tendril in question. "Your species relies heavily on physical strength," it said in a slow, melodic voice. "Yet many of the beings in this galaxy have transcended the need for such corporeal limitations. Why have humans not evolved beyond this dependency?" Alex smiled at the question, having anticipated something along those lines. It's true that some species have developed beyond the need for physical strength, relying instead on other faculties like telepathy or advanced energy manipulation. But humans have remained reliant on our physical bodies because of our adaptability. Our strength allows us to survive in environments where other species might struggle. We can hunt, gather, build, and even defend ourselves in hostile terrains. It's part of what makes us resilient. He paused, letting the point sink in. However, it's not just about strength. Humans are a blend of physical and mental prowess. We combine our physical capabilities with intelligence, strategy, and innovation. That's how we've survived on a planet with a wide variety of ecosystems, predators, and natural disasters. Another student, a feline-like alien with sharp golden eyes, raised a paw. "How do you deal with injury? With such reliance on physicality, are you not vulnerable to damage?" Alex nodded. "Absolutely. Our bodies are vulnerable, but we have advanced medical knowledge that helps us recover quickly from injury. Human bones, for example, can repair themselves over time after fractures. and our muscles, while susceptible to strain, are designed to recover and even grow stronger after repeated use or damage. It's part of what makes humans so adaptable. We learn from our physical experiences, and our bodies reflect that. To demonstrate, Alex lifted a heavy weight from the table beside him, one of the few human-made tools in the room. His muscles tensed and flexed as he raised it above his head with ease. The audience watched, transfixed, as he lowered the weight, his breathing steady. The action, so simple to humans, seemed to carry a different weight to his alien peers. For many of them, such physical feats were rare or unnecessary in their cultures. Zara, sitting near the back, felt a swell of pride, her heart pounding in rhythm with Alex's controlled breaths. She had always admired his drive, but seeing him now under the critical gaze of so many brilliant minds, she felt her admiration deepen. But she also noticed something else: the way the other female students in the room began to look at Alex. Their interest wasn't purely academic, so you could sense the curiosity, the way their gazes lingered on his muscular form, the way their expression shifted from intrigue to something more. She felt an unexpected pang of something, jealousy. No, it wasn't that, at least not in the usual sense. So it was more complicated, a feeling she couldn't quite name. She wasn't sure what she was to Alex's friend, confidant, something more. But as she watched other female students openly admire him, a new emotion bubbled up inside her, one that made her shift uncomfortably in her seat. When the demonstration ended, the room erupted into applause. The alien students, many of whom had never witnessed a human's physical capabilities up close, were clearly impressed. Several students immediately approached Alex, their questions spilling out in a cacophony of languages, each one eager to learn more, to understand the human form in greater detail. Among them were several female students from different species, all of them lingering a little too close for Zara's liking. They asked Alex personal questions, touching his arms, commenting on his physique in ways that were one, a tall, willowy being from a gaseous planet, leaned in close, her voice a soft purr as she complimented his strength. "You must be quite the warrior on your planet," she said, her gaze lingering on his shoulders. "It's rare to see such natural power combined with intellect." Alex, ever polite, smiled and thanked her, but his eyes scanned the room for someone else, someone whose opinion truly mattered to him. When his gaze finally landed on Zara, standing quietly near the back, his smile widened. He excused himself from the small crowd and made his way over to her, his presence a calm amidst the sudden storm of attention. "You were incredible," Zara said softly as he approached, her iridescent eyes reflecting a soft, shifting light. "They're all fascinated by you." "Thanks," Alex replied, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. "I wasn't sure how it would go, but I think they liked it." Zara nodded, her heart fluttering as she stood beside him, the excitement of the moment hanging between them. "They more than liked it. You made an impression, Alex, a big one." But as the crowd of admirers lingered behind him, Zara couldn't help but wonder what kind of impression he had made. She wasn't the only one who had noticed the way those other students looked at him, like he was something exotic, something desirable. And while Alex remained focused on her, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that things were changing. That perhaps their friendship, which had always felt so certain, might soon be tested in ways neither of them had expected. As they walked together out of the auditorium, leaving behind the buzzing crowd, Zara felt the shift, like a new force pulling at the delicate bond between them. She hoped it would hold. She wasn't ready to lose what they had, whatever it was becoming. And for Alex, he was too focused on the excitement of his successful presentation to notice the growing undercurrent around him. This was the beginning of his journey at the academy. But for Zara, it felt like the start of something else entirely. The days following Alex's anatomy demonstration blurred into a whirlwind of academic engagement, social interactions, and an unexpected surge of attention that Alex had never anticipated. The academy, with its towering spires and sprawling biodomes, felt more alive than ever, and Alex had suddenly found himself at the center of a growing circle of admiration. It started subtly at first. Students who had been present for the presentation stopped him in the halls, eager to ask more questions about human physiology or to simply congratulate him on his thorough, engaging performance. His answers were often met with wide-eyed fascination, as though the human body was some strange, exotic puzzle that needed to be unraveled. Yet, as more days passed, Alex noticed that the questions weren't just about his lecture anymore. There were lingering glances, casual touches, and compliments that had nothing to do with biology. He could feel the shift, the curiosity of his classmates evolving into something else, something more personal. The academy's diverse student body, once intimidating in its vast differences, was starting to feel oddly familiar in this new light. Alex now recognized the quiet, steady presence of some of the female students who had taken a more overt interest in him after the demonstration. They would find excuses to sit next to him during lectures, join him at the academy's communal dining halls, or offer to work on projects together. It seemed innocent enough at first, just friendly gestures from curious minds, but Alex couldn't ignore the deeper intentions beneath the surface. Among these students was Kyra, a tall, willowy alien from a planet called Marialace. Her species, with their elongated limbs and soft, translucent skin, were known for their grace and intellect. Kyra's sharp, feline-like eyes gleamed with an intelligence that Alex respected, but there was something else in the way she spoke to him now. Her compliments were always laced with something more, an undertone of admiration for his strength, his physique, and the qualities that seemed to fascinate her on a level beyond academics. "You have such a unique build," Kyra had said one afternoon during a study session. They were seated in one of the academy's many open gardens, a space filled with towering, bioluminescent plants and gentle streams of water that crisscrossed the grounds like glowing veins. "Humans must be exceptional survivors to have evolved with such strength and versatility." Alex shifted slightly, feeling her gaze on him, even as she pretended to be focused on their assignment. "I guess we are. It's all about adaptability," replied, his voice casual. He could feel the weight of her attention, though, and it made him uneasy. "We've had to find a balance between physical strength and intelligence just to make it through the challenges Earth has thrown at us." Kyra smiled, her thin, graceful fingers tapping lightly on her tablet. "Fascinating. I would love to learn more about how your body responds to stress. Perhaps we could run some experiments together, see how far the limits of human endurance go." There it was again, an offer that seemed entirely scientific but carried a suggestive undertone that was hard to miss. Alex laughed it off, shifting the conversation back to their academic work. But Kyra's interest didn't fade. She lingered in his orbit, always finding ways to be near him, her presence a constant reminder of the attention he now commanded. Yet, despite the growing attention from his peers, Alex's mind kept drifting back to Zara. From the moment he had arrived at the academy, Zara had been a constant in his life, an anchor in the sea of unknowns. She had been his first real friend here, someone who had seen beyond the novelty of his human form, and instead connected with him on an intellectual level. She had asked the questions no one else had about Earth's history, about human culture, and the deeper facets of their biology. There was a sincerity in Zara's curiosity, a genuine interest that made her different from the others. But lately Alex had noticed a subtle change in their interactions. Zara had grown quieter, more reserved. She still joined him for their study sessions, still worked alongside him in their biology seminars, but something was different. The easy flow of conversation that had once defined their friendship now felt stilted at times, as though there was something unspoken lingering between them. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that Zara had seen some things he had, the way some of the other students, especially the female ones, seemed to flock to him now. He had noticed her quiet glances when Kyra or others made their advances, noticed the way she would busy herself with work when someone else lingered too long at his side. It bothered him, but he wasn't sure why. After all, it wasn't like he had any control over how the other students felt or acted around him. Yet there was something in Zara's eyes when she looked at him now that made his chest tighten, a distance that hadn't been there before. One evening, as the two of them sat in the Academy's library, surrounded by towering shelves of holographic books and ancient texts, Alex decided he couldn't take the silence any longer. "Zara, is everything okay?" he asked, his voice soft but direct. Zara looked up from her tablet, her iridescent eyes catching the light for a moment before she blinked and glanced away. "Of course, why wouldn't it be?" she replied, her voice calm but guarded. Alex sighed, setting down his notes. "I just feel like things have been different between us lately. I mean, we still hang out and study together, but I don't know, it feels like you're pulling away. Did I do something to upset you?" Zara was quiet for a long moment, her eyes fixed on the page in front of her as if she were trying to find the right words. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than usual, almost hesitant. "It's not that, Alex. Then you didn't do anything wrong. It's just, I've noticed how things have changed since your demonstration, how people look at you now." Alex frowned, leaning forward slightly. "What do you mean?" Zara's fingers tightened around her tablet and she finally met his gaze, her iridescent eyes swirling with emotion she was struggling to contain. "You've become popular, Alex. I mean, you've always been likable, but now it's different. People aren't just interested in you because of your knowledge. They're drawn to you physically. You've seen how some of the other students act around you." Alex felt a surge of discomfort, not because what Zara was saying wasn't true, but because it forced him to confront the growing attention he had been trying to ignore. "I guess I've noticed it," he admitted, running a hand through his hair, "but I don't really know how to deal with it. I came here to learn, not to become the object of everyone's fascination. Zara finished, her voice tinged with something between amusement and frustration. Alex chuckled softly, but the sound lacked humor. Yeah, something like that, but I'm not interested in that kind of attention, right? I mean, I've been trying to stay focused on what we're doing, on our work. Zara gave him a small, tight-lipped smile. I know, but it's hard not to notice when you're constantly surrounded by admirers. There was an awkward silence between them, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging in the air like a thick fog. Alex could sense that there was more Zara wasn't saying, but he didn't want to push her. He wasn't entirely sure what he wanted to hear, either. Look, Zara, he said finally, leaning back in his chair and meeting her gaze with a seriousness he hadn't shown before. You're my friend, the first real friend I made here. I care about you, and I don't want anything to come between that. Whatever's happening with the other students, it doesn't change the way I see you. You're the one who's been there for me, who's helped me through all of this. Zara's expression softened slightly, her iridescent eyes flickering with uncertainty. I know, Alex, I do. And I'm glad we're friends. It's just complicated. Complicated how? Alex asked, his voice gentle. Zara hesitated for a moment, as if weighing her words carefully. She didn't want to risk losing the bond they shared, but she couldn't deny the feelings that had been bubbling beneath the surface for so long. I guess it's hard watching you get all this attention, not because I'm jealous, she added quickly, but because I don't know, maybe I am a little jealous. And not of them, but of the fact that you're being pulled in so many directions, and I don't know where I fit in anymore. Her words hit Alex like a wave, washing over him with the weight of their meaning. He hadn't realized just how much Zara had been affected by everything that had happened since his demonstration. He had been so focused on navigating the new dynamics himself that he hadn't stopped to consider how it might be impacting her. Zara, he said softly, reaching out to place a hand on her arm, you're not just part of my life here. You're the most important part. All this attention, it's weird. And I don't really know how to handle it, but you've always been the one I can count on. That hasn't changed, and it won't. Zara looked down at his hand on her arm, her heart racing in her chest. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver through her, and for a moment she allowed herself to imagine what it would be like if things were different, if they were more than just friends. But then just as quickly she pushed the thought aside. Alex was her friend, and she wouldn't risk that for anything. I'm glad to hear that, she said softly, pulling her arm away gently and giving him a small smile. I just needed to know where I stood. You've always stood right next to me, Alex replied, his voice steady, and that's where I want you to stay. The tension between them seemed to ease, the unspoken weight lifting just a little. They returned to their studies, the conversation lingering in the background like a quiet hum, but for now it was enough. They had cleared the air, at least a little, and Alex felt more certain than ever that Zara was the person he wanted by his side no matter what came next. But as the days continued to pass, the attention from other students didn't fade. If anything, it seemed to grow. More female students sought him out, more compliments were whispered in the halls, and more eyes followed him wherever he went. Alex did his best to keep his focus on his studies and on Zara, but he couldn't deny that the dynamics were shifting in ways that were beyond his control. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he wondered just how long he could balance it all, his friendship with Zara, the academic pressures and the attention that seemed to grow with every passing day. The academy's halls felt different to Alex as he walked them, now quieter. Somehow, despite the ever-present hum of alien voices and the soft whir of levitating transports gliding above, he had grown accustomed to the routine, to the steady stream of admiration that seemed to follow him wherever he went. But today that attention felt heavier than ever, like a weight pressing down on his shoulders. It had been weeks since his anatomy demonstration, and the buzz surrounding him had only intensified. Some of the female students had become more direct in their interests, particularly Kyra, whose feline-like eyes seemed to follow him everywhere. She was charming in her own way, intelligent, graceful, with a sharp wit that Alex admired. But her attention made him uncomfortable, not because she wasn't interesting or attractive, but because every time she leaned in too close or whispered something suggestive, his mind drifted elsewhere. It drifted to Zara. Zara, with her pale green skin that shimmered faintly under the academy's artificial lights, her silver hair that flowed like liquid metal, and her eyes, those iridescent eyes that shifted colors with her emotions. Alex had spent so much time with her, learning, laughing, sharing pieces of themselves that they hadn't shared with anyone else. There was an ease between them, a familiarity that had grown into something deeper, something that Alex hadn't fully understood until now. He had always thought of Zara as his closest friend, his confidante, but lately something inside him had shifted. He found himself looking at her differently, noticing the way her lips curved into a smile when she laughed, the way her eyes brightened when she was excited about a new discovery in class, or the way her voice softened when she spoke to him in moments of quiet. And now that realization had settled heavily in his chest, a truth that he could no longer ignore. Alex's thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of his wrist communicator. It was Zara. Her voice came through, clear and familiar. "Alex, can you meet me at the East Biodome? I wanted to go over some of the new research data with you," she said, her tone casual, but there was a slight edge to it, a hint of something she wasn't saying. "Sure, I'll be there in a few minutes," Alex replied, though his heart was already racing. The East Biodome was one of the Academy's most peaceful spaces, a massive, dome-shaped structure filled with flora from dozens of planets. It was a place where students could study in tranquility, surrounded by the vibrant alien greenery. But for Alex and Zara, it had always been more than that. It was their place, the spot where they often retreated after long days of classes and lab work, a sanctuary where they could simply be themselves. When Alex arrived, he found Zara standing near the central fountain, her back to him. The soft glow of the bioluminescent plants bathed in an ethereal light, making her look almost otherworldly, though to Alex, she had always been a bit otherworldly, even by the Academy's standards. "Hey," he called softly as he approached, his voice tentative. Zara turned to face him, her expression unreadable for a moment before she offered him a small smile. "Hey," she replied, though her eyes, those shifting, iridescent eyes, seemed troubled. So for a few moments they stood in silence, the sound of the bubbling fountain and the distant hum of the Academy's life the only noise between them. Alex could sense that something was on her mind, something heavier than their usual conversations about biology or Academy life, and he felt the tension like a thread pulled taut between them. "Zara, is something wrong?" Alex asked, stepping closer, his concern evident in his voice. "And you've seemed distant lately, and I don't want to lose what we have." Zara sighed, looking down at her hands before meeting his gaze again. "I've been thinking a lot, Alex. About us. About everything that's been happening since your presentation." She paused, searching for the right words. "Things have changed, haven't they?" Alex frowned, slightly unsure of where she was going with this. "What do you mean?" Zara took a deep breath, her eyes shimmering with uncertainty. "You've become popular. I see the way other students look at you now, especially some of the girls. And I guess I've been wondering if there's still room for me in your life. If I'm still the person you turn to when you need someone." Her words hit Alex like a wave, and suddenly everything made sense. The distance, the hesitation, the quiet glances she had been giving him lately, it was all because of how things had shifted between them. But she didn't realize that, through it all, she had been the one constant in his mind, as the one person he couldn't stop thinking about. "Zara, you'll always be the person I turn to," Alex said softly, taking a step closer to her. "None of this attention matters to me. None of them matter like you do." Zara's eyes widened slightly at his words, her heart skipping a beat. "Alex, I don't want to make things complicated. I value our friendship more than anything, but I can't help how I feel." Alex swallowed, his pulse quickening as he realized what she was about to say. The air between them seemed to thicken, the weight of unspoken emotions hanging in the space like a tangible presence. Zara hesitated, her voice trembling slightly as she continued, "I think I've been trying to hide it, trying to pretend I'm okay with just being your friend, but the truth is I've fallen for you, Alex. What I care about you more than I should. And I don't know if that's something you want to hear, but I can't keep pretending it doesn't affect me." Her confession hung in the air, raw and vulnerable, and for a moment Alex felt like the world had stopped turning. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times in his head, had wondered if Zara felt the same way he did, but hearing her say the words, it was more than he could have hoped for. "Zara," he whispered, stepping closer until they were only inches apart. "I have fallen for you too." The words slipped from his lips, unbidden but true, and the relief that washed over him was palpable. It felt like a weight had been lifted from his chest, a truth he had been carrying for far too long, finally out in the open. Zara blinked, her iridescent eyes shimmering with a mix of surprise and emotion. You have?" Alex nodded, his gaze locking with hers. "I've been trying to ignore it, trying to focus on my studies and everything happening here, but no matter what, my mind always comes back to you. You're the one who matters to me, Zara. You always have been." For a moment, neither of them spoke, the silence between them filled with the unspoken emotions that had been building for so long. Then, without warning, Zara took a step forward and wrapped her arms around Alex, pulling him into a tight embrace. He responded immediately, his arms encircling her, holding her close as the weight of their confession settled between them. "I was so scared," Zara whispered against his chest, her voice trembling with emotion. "Scared that you wouldn't feel the same. I was just another friend to you." Alex pressed his cheek against the top of her head, his heart pounding in his chest. "You're not just another friend, Zara. You're so much more than that. I didn't realize how much until I almost lost you." For a long moment, they simply stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the sounds of the biodome fading into the background as they allowed themselves to savor the closeness, the warmth, the understanding that had finally blossomed between them. So when Zara finally pulled back, her eyes were bright with unshed tears, but her smile was radiant. So what happens now? Alex chuckled softly, brushing a stray lock of her silver hair away from her face. I guess we figured it out together, one step at a time. Zara's smile widened, and for the first time in what felt like weeks, the tension between them was gone, replaced by a sense of peace, of something new and exciting. They weren't just friends anymore, they were something more, something deeper, and whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As they sat down by the fountain, their hands entwined, Alex couldn't help but feel a profound sense of relief and joy. The uncertainties of the past few weeks had evaporated, and in their place was a new certainty, a certainty that he and Zara were meant to be together and what the future unfolded. But even as they shared quiet moments of laughter and conversation, the shadow of the growing attention from others still lingered in the back of Alex's mind. He knew that things wouldn't be easy, that there would be challenges they hadn't anticipated, but now with Zara by his side, those challenges didn't seem so daunting. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Alex felt like he had found something real, something that transcended the curiosity and fascination of their peers. And as the stars shimmered above them through the translucent dome, he knew that whatever happened next, they would face it together with a bond that was stronger than anything he had ever known. Their journey, both at the academy and in their relationship, was just beginning. But now, with their hearts open and their feelings laid bare, Alex and Zara were ready to face whatever the universe had in store for them, together.